Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sake Revolution. This is America's first sake podcast, and I am your host, John Puma from the Sake Notes. Also, the administrator over at the Internet Sake Discord, and the guy who also runs the r/sake community over at Reddit.
And I'm your host, Timothy Sullivan. I'm a sake samurai, I'm a sake educator, as well as the founder of the Urban Sake website. And every week, John and I will be here tasting and chatting about all things sake, and doing our best to make it fun and easy to understand. Hey, John, I did get an interesting email from our friends at Tippsy. Have you heard that they have a new sake club? I know you've been a member in the past.
I have, and I did hear about the new club, and sometimes I am inherently suspicious of things, so I looked a little bit more closely, and it looks like the Tippsy Club had like a little quiz you can take that'll help you find the right sake for you. And I find that to be very fascinating. I find it to be a very interesting idea. What are your thoughts on that kind of concept? The idea of like helping people select sake based on a quiz of some sort.
Yeah, I've seen things like that on like wine websites before where you fill out a questionnaire and they make some recommendation. And I think if you're getting started with sake, that's an awesome way to get things rolling and find out what you like. So, John, I've got an idea. How about you and I get onto Tippsy?
I think I know where this is going.
How about we get onto Tippsy and take that quiz ourselves? What do you think?
I think that is an excellent idea, Tim. Let's do it.
Okay.
We're at the Tippsy storefront, and we're looking at the flavor profile quiz. And it says, what is your flavor preference? That's the first question. And so we've got 4 options here. We've got delicate and dry. We've got delicate, aromatic, and slightly sweet. We've got rich and dry. And then we've got rich and slightly sweet.
John, I'm on the edge of my chair.
Nice. So this is interesting. For me, like I immediately think like delicate, aromatic, and slightly sweet is my thing. But I also really like delicate and dry. You know?
Well, you can pick multiple ones here. And I think it's important to note that there's an option at the very bottom that says, I don't know yet.
That's an excellent point. It does say that.
So for me, can you we've done this podcast for a few years now. Can you guess what I would pick?
I mean, in my mind, I think I think you're kind of like, I mean, I guess delicate and dry then, right?
That's right. I'm going to select delicate and dry, and I'm also going to select aromatic and slightly sweet because I think of these 4 options, those 2 would be where I would go. How about you?
I mean, I feel like I'm cheating if I choose the same thing as you, but that's really where I'm at too. I really feel like that's what I like.
Okay, so you and I have both selected the same delicate and dry as well as delicate, aromatic, and slightly sweet.
Let's do it. Let's go ahead and continue.
So continue.
All right, question 2. And I really like this. What categories do you not want in your subscription, your order?
Okay, so this is going to allow us to take certain types of sake out of our subscription.
Correct.
Okay.
So let's say you're a person who doesn't like cloudy sake. You don't like nigori. You can take out the nigori. You don't like sparkling sake. You can take out sparkling sake. If you don't like umeshu, that's fine. You don't want to. Maybe you get your umeshu someplace else. and also flavored sake. So if it's something that is more of a sake liqueur kind of thing, like a yuzu sake or something like that, you can eliminate that from the equation. I'm a little bit of a purist, Tim, so I'm going to select all 4 as things I don't want in my collection because I just want to have some sake.
I really enjoy sparkling, so I'm going to take out nigori. I'm going to take out umeshu and flavored. So I'm going to leave in sparkling for me because I really do enjoy that.
Excellent. All right. Question 3. What do you eat when you drink? Choose at least one. They're like, please choose at least one.
What are the options here, John?
So ironically, the first selection is nothing. It says nothing. I want my drink to speak for itself. And then you have fresh sushi and sashimi hits the spot. Next up is I prefer surf over turf. So oysters, fish dishes, etc. After that, we have I am a carnivore. Meat all the way. And finally, I love a good cheese board with the fruits and veggies.
Hmm.
Now, this is going to be the part where you and I differ the most, right?
Probably.
Yeah. Because I'm staying as far away from that cheese board as possible.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I'm going to select all of these because I love sashimi, I love surf, I love turf, and I love a good cheese board. And I also want my sake to speak for itself sometimes. So I've selected all of these. How about
Excellent.
you?
So I'm going to say nothing. And I'm also going to say a carnivore because a lot of the dishes in our home tend to be meat. So there we go.
Okay. So
Yes.
we've selected our what we like to eat when we drink. Continue. And the next question. What is your preferred sake temperature? And we have chilled, warm, or both chilled and warm.
Well, again, I'm going to be pretty boring here. I like my sake chilled, generally speaking. There are situations where warm is nice, but I'm low effort. Take it right out of the fridge and put it in a glass. That's me.
Okay, well, I'm going to select both chilled and warm because I love a really well done warm sake in the winter. So I'm gonna stick to both.
Excellent.
Moving on. So continue.
Here we go.
Oh boy.
Tasting notes that you're interested in. Tim, you can't just choose them all. I mean, you can, but that's cheating.
No, there's no cheating. You can't cheat on the Tippsy quiz.
All right. So
you have to choose at least 3 tasting notes.
Yes.
Do you want to read through this list real quick?
Sure. So we've got floral, citrus, tropical, apples and peaches, vegetal, nuts, dried fruit, cereal and grain, and earth and mineral, which shows a picture of mushrooms for the record. So I imagine that mushrooms are considered earth.
Yeah, I think that would be like the umami we're always talking about, right? Yeah. Okay. So what do you think? How about for you? I think you're going to go with, if I had to pick for JP here.
I'm very curious.
I would
What are you
say
picking?
floral, citrus, tropical, apple, and peaches.
I'm also going to add dried fruit.
All right.
But 100%, but also dried fruit.
All right. I'm going to cast a little bit of a wider net than you, Puma. I'm going to throw in a little cereal and grain, vegetal, and, I might just pick them all because,
Really?
yeah, I enjoy all these. Definitely floral, citrus, tropical, apples, and peaches. Vegetal is interesting to me. Cereal and grain, earth and mineral. And maybe I'll leave out nuts and I'll leave out dried fruit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right. I'm getting very excited to see what's going to come out of this. Okay, so now we're going to continue on to the next question. And the question here is, what kind of sake would you like to start with? So the options here are 1, I'm new to sake. I want to try the most popular bottles first. Or I'm ready to learn more. I want some hidden gems. Or 3, I'm not particular. I want to see what you select for me. So those are the 3 options.
Well, this is a tricky one for us. I think that we probably know more bottles than most people because we encounter them a whole lot. So for this, I'm just going to do not in particular.
I'm going to do the same.
Okay.
I want them to recommend stuff. And if it's things that I know and love, that's fine. And if it's hidden gems, that's fine too. So I'm going to select I'm not particular. All right.
All right. Now to continue, we choose a budget and a bottle volume and how often. Purposes of our little experiment here, the one that's most important on this page is the budget, right?
Yes. So the budget goes from $20 a bottle up to $200 a bottle. So what are you going to set for your budget?
Let's see. It defaults to $20 to $65. So I'm going to leave it at the default. I generally don't like to spend more than about $65 on a single bottle.
Well, I'm going to stretch the budget a little bit. I'm going to say between 20 and 100. I usually don't buy $200 bottles of sake, but thinking back to our bougie sake episode, like every once in a while, I like to up the budget, get something really special. But it would be for a special occasion.
Right.
And so I want to see what they'll include for something that's, not at the highest end of the spectrum, but a little bit higher than what they start with. So I'm going to go up to 100.
All right.
Continue. All right. Okay. So, wow, it looks like that's the end of the quiz. We made it.
All right. So, Tim, we took the quiz.
Yes, that's right, John. We just finished the quiz and we are looking at the results. Now, you got 3 sakes and I got 3 sakes as a result. And what jumps out at me first is that looks like we have one in common.
I want to say that when you taste a lot of sake and you take one of these quizzes and it gives you back one of your favorite bottles, that's evidence of a quality quiz in my mind. What about you? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was really interesting. Now we're going to hold off on revealing the exact bottles that we got for just a moment longer. I think that in order to really talk about these quiz results in detail, we should bring in an expert. And we've got someone on the line who is just the person to help us. We're going to bring in our friend Sachiko Miyagi from Tippsy Sake. And she's going to give us the lowdown on how this quiz came together and what the deal is with this whole Tippsy Sake Club. So let's welcome Sachiko to the podcast. Hey, Sachiko, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having Tippsy and me on the podcast. I've been a fan from during COVID. It's been kind of a safety blanket for me to listen to for comfort. So love you guys and love what you do. We're just in making sake fun and accessible is exactly what Tippsy's mission is. So thank you so much for having us and also for taking the quiz. Yes. I'd love to.
That was fun.
I need to hear about it more, but let's get into it.
Sure. So before we dive directly into the quiz, just in case people are listening and really don't even know what Tippsy is, they should probably know what Tippsy is. So can you please tell our listeners at home, what is Tippsy Sake?
Yes. Tippsy Sake, spelled with 2 P's, TIPPSYSAKE.com, is an online resource for sake lovers. And it's basically a sake shop that's online based in the US, and we ship sake to most states in the United States.
Great. And more specifically now, the Tippsy Sake Club, what is it? How does it work?
Yeah, Tippsy Sake Club has evolved. It was started by Genki, the founder, in 2018. And he had a subscription service back then that was 3 mini bottles every month. And then when I joined, which is 2.5 years ago, we upgraded that to 6 300 milliliter bottles every 3 months. And it came with educational videos and cards and things like that. And then now we've evolved that even further and made them bigger bottles and a lot of flexibility. So now we can, instead of giving you the pre-selected 6 bottles every 3 months, that here we go, this is my selection, please enjoy it. And the purpose was for people to try a lot of different things so you start to understand your flavor preferences and that you can navigate for yourself and find the sake that you like, because we have over 400 SKUs. So it's a lot of different products to have to sort through. And unlike wine, you can't just say, oh, I like Chardonnay and just look at it. Chardonnay category is fairly easy, but when it comes to sake, you have to start with, oh, what is Junmai? Well, what about when it says Junmai Daiginjo? There's just a lot of mystery around sake, as you know. And so now we're able to have you take a quiz and see if we can recommend some bottles that are going to hit the spot for you, hopefully. And the really cool thing is that after the first time, you can rate the bottles that you got. And then according to your rating, your next one will be even more curated, because we have even more data on what you enjoy and what you may not enjoy. So that's the kind of the evolution of the Tippsy Sake Club, which is a subscription.
Nice. I like the idea of being able to bring in additional data as things go on. It's like how things like Spotify work, where it gets an idea of what kind of music you're into. And then, oh, you definitely didn't like this music, so we're going to not do that anymore. And things of that nature. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Now, I can imagine a lot of thought and head scratching goes into building a quiz like this. Can you tell us what went into making this quiz, and how'd you come up with the specific questions we just went through, and what's kind of behind the scenes view of making this quiz?
Just like anything that Tippsy does, we want to make sure it's friendly, it's easy, it's authentic, and all those things. So we try to make it simple for people. It is a lot of questions, but hopefully it was fun to get through. And then for each of those questions, yes, there is a backstory. Like some of the things that you answered, like pairing question, like what do you like to eat it with? As you may guess, sake goes well with anything. So it's, sake is really non-discriminatory. So even if you are a vegetarian, you're going to enjoy every single sake in a different way. So with that one,
was that a trick question?
It's not a trick question. It does add up to the algorithm behind the quiz. But I asked if they could give a little bit smaller points to it compared to the flavor profile quiz, like points. So let's say the flavor profile is going to give you 1 point for each thing that you answered that matches. And that would be like up to 3 points per bottle. The pairing one, I asked if they could adjust it to 0.5. So it will make a difference when you have two products that have, like, let's say 12 points for all of, matching all your preferences. It's hitting the spot, it's light and dry, and it's doing all these things, and it also is recommended to enjoy with meat. So then that one's going to have, just a 0.5, like just a cut above the other ones. So we do tweak the behind the scenes kind of point system in the algorithm just a little bit.
So they're weighted, basically.
Are.
It's like certain things are a little bit more important
than
others.
Yeah.
Okay, John, I think it is time for the big results reveal. I cannot wait any longer. So let me tell our listeners, first of all, the sakes that I got as my results. The first one is the Watari Bune 55 Junmai Ginjo. Then I also got Toyobijin Karakuchi. And I also got Dewazakura Oka. And that is the one I can reveal that you and I have in common.
The idea that we both got recommend the same sake makes all the sense in the world, because we have very similar taste. Not exactly the same taste, but very similar. So 1 out of 3, that's great. So what do you think about the other 2 that came in for you?
Well, before I talk about that, I do want to remind our listeners that when John and I started our podcast 3 years ago, we were doing our first episode and we're like, what the heck sake are we going to pick for our first episode? And it has to be something we both love and we can talk about. And what did we pick? Dewazakura Oka. So it was the first sake that John and I both grabbed to talk about on our first episode. So it was kind of speaks to the fact that this quiz really does zero in on what you like.
The quiz is a listener, Tim.
If you're truthful in your quiz. The other 2 sakes are Watari Bune is the Junmai Ginjo 55 is one of my all-time favorite sakes, like no joke. I absolutely love it. So I was delighted to see that there. The Toyobijin dry sake is one that I like. So it's fun for me to think, I've had that before, but not in a long time. I want to revisit it. So I was happy with all my results. How about you, John?
Again, I've also got the Dewazakura Oka, which there's history there. The other 2 for me were the Heiwa Kid Junmai, which I'm a huge fan of. I think I've talked about it on this show at length. It's one of those sakes that I can accidentally, oh my goodness, where did the bottle go? Whoops. Kinds of sakes. I just think it's like just weapons grade delicious. It's so light and easy drinking. And then the other one I got was the Urakasumi Karakuchi Hanjozo, which honestly, I'm not sure I've ever had. So that's kind of like bumped up on my list of things to try now, because the other 2 I'm big fans of. I've had other things from Urokusumi, but I don't know if I've had this exact sake. So it's something I need to poke at and see what I think about it. So I'm definitely going to be trying that one in the near future.
So awesome. I love it.
Excellent. So Sachiko, I wanted to ask you as well, what can customers expect when they order the club and they get their first shipment? What's that experience like? What are they going to get in their box? And what happens the next time they order?
You get a Tippsy branded masu, and we flip flop whether we should do a little ochoko or a glass or a box. And the box is kind of given away in Japan as gifts to commemorate some kind of milestone. You know, as a drinking vessel, it might be a little awkward, but I use it actually at home as a business card holder because I have so many. And you get a little booklet for anybody that wants to dive a little bit more deeper into what does it mean when we're listing Yamada Nishiki as a sake rice. What qualities do you look for? There is a map, a regional map about, so you kind of know generally where each prefecture is if you're looking that up, and temperature gauge, like how to heat something up, just a tiny bit on vocabulary for anybody that's interested. With this new subscription service, we try to set you on the right path to just explore more and make sake your own and discover things, just so you can make sake much more of your friend at home. So when we launched this on March 1st, it was a milestone thing. We were celebrating. It was very cool, but we are fine-tuning and making more advances as we go. And we do have add-ons that have sakeware that you can add to your order, and seasonals and Tippsy's favorites that you can swap it with. So if you're not feeling like you want 3 or 6 bottles of everything that's sort of lining up with your taste profile, then you can switch any of them out. And so maybe you want to do, all $35 and lower result just to see it. And then you want to add, like somebody's birthday, you want to add something that's more expensive that is recommended.
Yeah. So on that note, this is, of course, Sake Revolution, and on Sake Revolution, every episode, we will be tasting some sake. It's kind of just what we do here. Since Timothy and I both received Dewa Zakura Oka as a result for our quiz, we decided to get a bottle of Dewa Zakura Oka, and we're going to sip it. We're going to talk about it with Sachiko here, and we're going to start that right now.
Through the magic of podcasting, we completed the quiz.
The bottle has appeared.
The bottle has appeared. All right. Well,
yeah.
As we do, Sachiko, John, let's go ahead and pour the Dewa Zakura Oka into the glass. And as we're doing that, John can read out the stats for our listeners.
Yes. We're going to mix our ASMR splashing with our description. So this is the Dewa Zakura Oka. It is a ginjo, so it's Aruten. That's brewer's alcohol added. Go back to our old episodes about that, and you'll find out all the details. The name of the brewery here is Dewa Zakura Shuzo. They are located in wonderful Yamagata, Japan. The rice being utilized here is Dewa Sansan and Hainuki. The Seimai Boai, that rice milling percentage, is 50%. The sake meter value, that measure of dryness and sweetness, is a nice and slightly dry +5. And the alcohol percentage is 15.5.
Sachiko, I saw on the Tippsy product page for Dewa Zakura Oka, you've done a wonderful 3-minute video on this sake, so I know you know it very well. And one of the key points you raised in that video was that this is like a long time classic ginjo style, isn't it?
It is. It's hugely iconic. This is kind of what started the ginjo boom. And it's been around for 40 years.
Let's give it a smell and take in this ginjo aroma.
Yes.
Oh, lovely.
Yes, Tim.
What
this is
think,
why
John?
We chose this one for the first episode.
Yeah. Sachiko, what are you smelling here? What are you getting?
It's just incredibly ginjoka. It's floral.
Ginjoka. Yeah. So for our listeners at home, when you say ginjoka, ginjos, those classic fruity ginjo aromas, and ka means fragrance or aroma, right? So when you say ginjo ka, it's that classic fruity, melony, floral yumminess, right?
Yes, some white flowers. To me, it has a little bit of a mineral type of note to it too, which everybody has a different take, but Yamagata sake tends to have that for me sometimes. And this was just amazing to hear from Dewa Zakura. So in that video, we have a interview from the brewery, and they talk about how every year, getting sake rice is very difficult. Quality sake rice, inflation, labor, all these things. And the rice quality changes every year for sure, but they really try really hard to keep the sake affordable. And because they really feel like this is a flagship product that they want to provide to the customers as long as they can. So I love the thought of getting your bang for the buck for this too, because I do think it's really hard to do that. So hearing that story from them was pretty cool.
Well, let's give it a taste now and see what comes across the palate. Juicy, fruity, silky smooth, right, John?
Yeah. It is just, every time it's one of these sakes, every time you taste it, you're reminded of like everything that you love about it. And that's exactly kind of where I'm at now. It's just, this was one of my first ginjos. Actually, as far as like Aruten ginjos, probably was like my first actual ginjo. And just really just blew my mind. I remember like just staring at that label and being like, I have to commit this to memory because this is something unique and different. And I thought unique and different. Little did I know that I was opening a door to a whole category that I didn't know existed. But yeah, just having this like this wonderfully juicy, fruity flavor come across is just so wonderful. There's a lot of sense memory for me on this one.
Like visiting an old friend that you like.
They're very fond of, yes.
I feel like that person is dressed nicely too. Like they're very
and smells
presentable.
good.
Smells good. Yeah.
Well, I think we can all agree that this sake is a winner and that the algorithm is working for John and myself for sure.
Definitely working for me. That's absolutely the case.
So Sachiko, if people at home are interested in signing up for the Tippsy Sake Club, of course, we're going to have all the links and information in our show notes on our website, sakerevolution.com. But do you want to let people know what they should do if they're interested in signing up or learning more?
Yes. Go to our website. It's tippsysake.com, tippsysake.com. And once you go to the homepage, you'll see on the top, it says membership. And that's where you want to put your cursor. And underneath that, it says Tippsy Sake Club. So for first-time customers of Tippsy, you can always use a 10% off code called Revolution as you check out.
Great. So discount code Revolution at checkout. And if it's your first order on Tippsy, you'll get 10% off. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Sachiko, thank you so much for joining us. This was a great insight into the Tippsy Sake Club, and I hope all of our listeners will sign on and take this really fun quiz and try it out for themselves. So thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. All right, John, great to taste with you, and I want to shout out a special hello to our patrons as well. If you'd like to support Sake Revolution, you can visit us at patreon.com/sakerevolution to learn more about our tiers and different ways that you can support the show.
And another great way to support us is to leave a review over on your podcast platform of choice. That can be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Journal, whatever you're using these days. Go over there, tell them how much you're enjoying the show, and that's going to get the word out. It's going to get us out there on the algorithm. We're all about algorithms today. Yeah. So it's going to help us out. When people look for Sake Podcasts, it means that they will find Sake Revolution a lot faster than they would otherwise. So thanks for doing that. On that wonderful note, I want everybody to please raise a glass. Remember to keep drinking sake and
Kanpai!